Yes, I'm just gonna get this started and then, yes, did you need me for something, love? Do you want to say hi to people? No, you don't want to say hi to people. It's the PT. I know I'm almost done. I'm almost done, love.
So Ashley, I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't like to know the questions ahead of time so that I can potentially look like an idiot when I stumble over it. But just tell me how old is your son?
So he's 8.
He's 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Doug likes to live life on the edge.
Hey, that's all right. Makes for better live streaming, I guess.
Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody. We're here. It's Monday.
Hello.
Anyway, Doug is back from gallivanting around the world. Welcome back, Doug.
Thank you. Tired, but I'm here.
How was the jet lag?
It actually affects you more than you think. Like I tried to plan it all out, like when I was going to sleep on the plane and all that, and I felt like the times were all okay, but like I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I think it's 9 a.m. and now it feels like 11 p.m. But it's all right. It's slowly getting back to things.
If you want, I can send my daughter over and you can just take care of her all day and then you will be completely zonked out at night.
That is a lovely gesture. I know that we are proximity wise fairly close to each other, but I don't want to take that away from you, but I appreciate it.
You're so kind and thoughtful, Doug. You're amazing. Yeah, that's the word, amazing. Okay, guys, I am going to hand it over to Doug and Ashley. Oh, wait, who's Doug? Doug's a PT. He knows stuff about Duchenne. He's going to answer some questions.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's good. The intros I love it. The intros get shorter and shorter. That's great.
They do. All right. I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Go for it, Ashley.
Okay, so Lindy was kind enough to reach out to us, or me, when she saw a couple of posts that I put in our Duchenne Facebook groups about my son, who's 8, Gian. He fell at home on August 31st. He tripped over a rug we have in our living room, and he fell onto his left hip on our wood floor, and he broke the neck of his femur, sadly. So yeah, so that was a big deal. We didn't take him in right away to the ER because he wasn't in actually really any pain when he was sitting down and not putting any weight on it. So we thought maybe, just give him a day or so. But the following morning, he was having a lot of pain when he was trying to stand. So then we obviously knew something was wrong and brought him into the ER, and they did x-rays and found the fracture, the femur fracture. So again, it's on his left hip. It's on the neck of the femur. It's below the growth plate, thankfully. Doesn't involve the growth plate, and his hip was not displaced at all in the fall, thankfully also. So it was more kind of like the top of the neck of the femur kind of compressed. So it was kind of hard for us to see the fracture actually when the doctors were showing us, because we're not experts in this, obviously, but
it sounds like it was pretty clean. Like there's no no problems with the socket itself or whatever it was.
Nope, everything else was fine. The socket was fine. It was just I wish I had a picture of the fracture, but I don't have that. Yeah, so it was kind of like a clean break, like you said. No hip displacement, nothing else. They x-rayed his whole leg just to make sure there was no referred pain or anything, and nothing like that happened. So our team at the U of M, so we see Dr. Karachensky at the U of M. He's our neuromuscular doctor, and the whole orthopedic surgery team, pediatric trauma team, all of them kind of got together about what would be the best situation for him to either do surgery or put him in a cast, given his Duchenne, and he has osteoporosis. So he has been doing, with his osteoporosis, he has been doing the Zometa infusions every 4 to 6 months. We've done him 3 or 4 times now. So to help his bone density. So anyways, all of his team of doctors got together and thought surgery was not the best option for him, just because of risk of infection, having the surgery, equipment that they would use possibly fail, having to do another surgery. So they put him in this cast. It's called a spica cast. So as you can see from the picture, it goes from his chest all the way down to his feet. So his toes are the only thing on the bottom that is exposed. Left a little room like around his stomach. You can kind of see there's a cutout for when he eats and things, so that his belly can expand. And there is quite a bit of room around his chest too, so it's not super restrictive around there. So he can breathe fine, and he can kind of move his torso around a little bit. But just with where the fracture was, it's so far up on the neck of the femur. For him to heal properly, he needed to be completely immobilized. So that's how we ended up with this monster of a cast. Yeah, so we are a 2-person team right now for transfers and things, because he weighs a ton with this thing on.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess my questions mainly for you, Doug, are just kind of, I know everybody's experience with Duchenne is different, but kind of what we can possibly expect when it comes off, as far as like, we know that he'll have soreness. He has to wear it for 6 weeks. So we know ideally for Duchenne, that's kind of a long time to be in a cast, especially one that's so big as his, or, covers a lot of his body, especially his legs.
Sure.
So yeah, kind of what to expect. If there's any, good ideas that we can take to our physical therapist that we're going to start seeing once the cast comes off. Yeah, just really any insider tips. I mean, even tips now for kind of caring for him. We've got a pretty good system down with his cast, but if you have any ideas, I know our school PT thought, maybe trying to put a little bit of weight on his feet, even though they're covered in his cast, just to kind of make it so that he's not completely not weight bearing. It's challenging though, because of the position he's in. So he would probably have to like sit on me, and I'd have to hold him up, is what I'm thinking, if that would be something that's beneficial.
Yeah. So a couple of quick background questions, because
Sure.
it'll help guide me. So was he seeing, other than in clinic where you guys go, the multidisciplinary clinic, does he get PT?
He has not had formal PT. We didn't do it this year. We had been doing it every summer up until this past summer, I believe. So we weren't doing physical therapy. We were just mostly doing stretching at home daily.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said something about when he gets the cast off, he'll be going for PT.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what that will look like yet. I know they want to do his evaluation the week after he gets the cast off, and then kind of make a plan from there.
Okay. And
That's
that,
not often.
if I have my time right, that should be like the middle of October.
Yep. So October 14th is when the cast is coming off.
Okay. So the first thing that I would do once he starts with the PT, and you can do this ahead of time, just make sure that the PT understands about Duchenne.
Yep. Okay.
So that's the first thing that I would just make sure that they have at least a moderate understanding of all that. So what you can expect, I would say, because we've dealt with a number of femur fractures, both myself and my colleague Jennifer, just in the last year.
Yep.
We've had a number of guys, and they've all progressed differently. So with your son, what was his functional level in terms of like walking, like how far could he go before all this?
He was still pretty independent. It's like if we were at home, he's walking everywhere. He's going to the bathroom on his own.
Okay.
He can go up and down our stairs. We have a lot of them, so we try to avoid them as much as we can. He has a manual wheelchair. We were really only using that for school functions, for distances. Otherwise, we have a double stroller for our toddler and him that he uses for long distances when we're in the community too. But otherwise, if he's in his classroom setting or in our house setting, he's walking independently
Okay, perfect.
all the time.
Okay.
His we had actually been to his muscular dystrophy clinic a week prior to his fracture happening. And he tested great on his North Star assessment, was at a 22 and, did everything fine. And then of course we ended up
Yeah,
ER a
with
week
this.
So
First of all, it sounds like, just from what you're telling me, like before all this and everything, you guys are doing everything great and doing everything that you're supposed to do. The fact that he was so mobile and he was so strong before, I think is going to say a lot about how he does coming out of this. So usually the kids that have a femur fracture and their walking was already sort of precarious and very short distances, that downtime from the femur fracture of 6 weeks or 8 weeks, that can be tough to
Sure.
bounce back from. So the fact that he was so mobile before will help.
Okay.
I think the biggest issue that I see following this, and once the casts come off, is fear from the kids. Fear that it's going to hurt, fear
Right.
that they're going to fall again, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think what you can do, I would still keep his upper extremities moving as much as possible, and you can do range of motion there.
Sure.
I think what I would do, because what are we at, the 26th? You're like 3 weeks out from the cast coming off. I would say do what you're doing. Try to do the 2-person transfers whenever possible, because there's so much weight to the cast, as you're already figuring out. So I
Yep.
think just the biggest thing right now is safety. Just make sure that we're letting it heal. We're not bumping it. Start doing some weight bearing. I don't know. That would more be a question for the surgeon, because sometimes the weight bearing, when it's in a healing phase, can actually slow things down. If
Sure.
things, especially if it's at the neck of the femur where there are angles there, if you're weight bearing at an angle such that it pushes up instead of in line with the bone,
Sure.
it could delay healing. So I wouldn't be so keen. I think the biggest thing would be like, let him heal, kind of pain-free. But you can also start talking to him about what the therapy is going to look like
Yeah.
once the casts come off. And so that may help alleviate some of the fear, like,
Sure.
hey buddy, what they're going to do, they're not going to have you walk right away.
Yep.
We're going to start slow and standing up and getting a little bit of weight, and we'll get you comfortable, and there'll be people there and all of that, just so he has a good understanding of what to expect. And
Sure.
just so you have a good understanding, it's basically more or less going to follow that. They're going to
Yep.
just get him up first, go from sitting to standing using the good leg, but also having some weight bearing on the affected leg.
Sure.
Start with standing, start with taking, little tiny steps, and just progress it from there as he's comfortable and he's able.
Okay.
So that's kind of overall what that would look like. Is he on, I'm assuming he's on steroids?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Daily.
Okay. So, there's no way to know for sure, but just based on what he was doing before, I think he should do well. And the downtime of the having the casts on hopefully shouldn't be too much of a problem. You also want to let the therapist know and just kind of keep a lookout for knee flexion contractures.
Okay.
And ankle contractures, because as like from the pictures that I saw, looks like he's at maybe a 30 degree, like that
Yep.
hip spica position.
Yep.
You're at like a 30-40 degree knee flexion. That's how you're casted. And
Yep.
then the feet as well are pointed. Looks like they may be at neutral, but that might be an issue too, in being in that static position for so long. So
Yep.
there might be some range of motion that'll go along with the standing, the weight bearing, the walking, all of that once the casts come off.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we brought up to the surgeon too about like his foot positioning, because they're kind of like this.
yeah, like turned in, like,
Right.
yeah,
So, and he said because he has to have people help him hold the feet when they put the cast on. So that's kind of just how they ended up while someone else was holding them while he was putting the cast material on. So that was our concern too, was like, okay, like his feet are like this. So
Yeah, they're not in a neutral
No.
position.
right. So is there so one thing I didn't say is that he wears SMOs, did prior to this happening, for stabilization while he was walking before the femur fracture. So my concern was that I don't think we'll be able to get them on after, like right when the cast comes off. So I don't know if there's any other stretches or like.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to stretch that while he's in the cast. Does he get the cast changed at all, or
No.
it's the same cast the whole time?
Yep, same cast the whole time.
I think you're right to be a little bit concerned about that. I
Mhm.
mean, especially if he had the SMOs, because that was probably some of the reason for having the SMOs was to keep the foot in a
Yep.
neutral position. So I'm wondering, I don't even know if they can do this, but I'm wondering if they can take off, like cut off the lower half.
Mhm.
I mean, the hip spica cast is really to keep the hip stabilized. So it almost seems like maybe they can cut the lower half of the cast off, like from the shin down, and put a new cast on there with the feet in a more neutral position.
Okay.
I think that's worth
Sure.
trying to find out.
Yeah, I did. We asked, so we brought him in at 2 weeks for a follow-up, and we brought up his foot positioning. And our surgeon was under the impression that 6 weeks wouldn't be long enough for contractures to happen, especially on his feet, because it's only 6 weeks. We know otherwise. I mean, I'm not a physical therapy expert, but from what I've read, as far as
Well, it's a different, it's a different lens we're looking through. 6
Right.
weeks might not be as big of a deal in terms of contractures for you or for me, but
Yeah.
when there's already that propensity for tightness, or that I would tend to disagree with the surgeon on that point, because I think it is a long time.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's something, I could reach out to our neuromuscular doctor and have him directly contact our surgeon. I know, because every time we had an issue with our son having a lot of pain in one of his pinky toes also, because the cast was kind of like digging into his skin. So
Yeah.
at first when we brought it up, they're like, oh, well, there's not much we can do, but we ended up bringing him in, and then they did alter the cast in that spot because he had a blister, so I feel like they're very hesitant to alter it anyway. But in my opinion, if it's something that's going to help with his healing, like, and just, because the surgeon also said, well, we want him to be back on his feet as quickly as possible when the cast comes off, which yes, I that is the goal. But if he can't stand because his feet are
Right.
then
Right.
that's kind of defeating the purpose of.
Yeah. No,
know,
I agree with you. I think in my opinion, I think 6 weeks for a kid with Duchenne is a long time to be in a static position. And especially it would also be one thing if he casted like a little bit the opposite way, because these boys tend to curve their feet in. So the way he's casted is even, it's moving it into that position.
Sure.
So yeah, I think I would reach out to the neuromuscular doc and see if there's anything that can be done where they can just alter the lower half of it.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be like the height of the SMO or an AFO, just that height too. Yeah, Lindy had asked, what about hydrotherapy once the cast comes off? Absolutely. If that's available to you guys for the physical therapy, that's even better. Because
we also have a pool. I mean, it's Minnesota and it's October almost, so it's getting cold. But we have a pool, so we can do some things there with, safely, of course, carefully.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions of things that we could do at home too, or if, our therapist, if they will have any suggestions too.
Yeah. Is the pool heated at all?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the big thing. I would just keep, as long as it's above I don't know, maybe 85 degrees, somewhere around there, because if it's too cold, he could kind of tense up. But absolutely, I mean, you want to have the physical therapist evaluate him and everything.
Sure.
But I think that would be great, just to get him in the pool and let him move around a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily, I would have to see him after he comes out of the cast to make
Yep.
specific, like, do this exercise or do this or do this. But I think just generally having him in there and being able to move that left leg
Yeah.
and right leg after being immobilized for so long, I think will just be a benefit right there. And
Sure.
then once the therapist starts working with him and seeing what he can do, then he or she can kind of guide you from there, like, oh, okay, at home when he's in the pool, have him do this type of exercise, or have him stand on this leg, or whatever it is.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. We can do that.
So does that kind of get you in the right direction? And
Yeah,
answer your question?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was just when we saw him when he came out of the OR and he had this whole huge cast on, it was like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, it's a lot. I know
So,
it's overwhelming. And
yeah.
the hip it moves in so many different directions that they have to cast up high and all the way down low, as opposed to, if he broke like a bone in his wrist, he would just have this short cast. You
Yeah,
come out with this, 30-pound giant three
yeah,
quarters of your body cast on, it certainly can be overwhelming.
yes,
So,
definitely. I mean, he's been handling it really well, which is amazing. But
yeah.
yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
lot.
it sounds like you guys have a really good handle on Duchenne itself.
Mhm.
And so I think, don't be afraid to get in there and help guide the process. If you feel
Sure.
like the physical therapist is maybe not doing the right thing, or being too aggressive, or whatever it is, it sounds like you know what to do. So just help guide the process. But I think he'll do okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
All
for
right.
that.
Hello, everybody. Somebody mentioned on Facebook, when you take him to the doctor, take his AFO with you and show them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we
that way
did.
too.
It was as nice as he was, he's kind of like an older doctor who's like, I've seen it all. And I'm like, well, but I don't think you have. So, yeah, but I'll get our neuromuscular doctor involved, and he's pretty, to the point and in a
Good.
nice way, but he'll be a good help too. So I'll contact him and see what he can do.
Good.
And Doug, would you be able to give tips if we see him after his cast comes off, if there are any gate questions or anything like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
cool.
Or even after the evaluation, the PT evaluation, if you want to touch base and, we can revisit this, like, oh, she said, we
yeah.
can do this or that, and we can kind of have a, like a episode 2 after the cast comes
Yeah,
off.
that
Where are
sounds
we?
good. I would appreciate that. Yeah, and I can send more pictures and, we can take
Yeah,
videos and all that stuff too.
good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and asking your question, Ashley. Hopefully
Yeah,
it's
thank you so
helpful.
much. Yes, absolutely. Very helpful.
Okay, good. If you do have any more follow-up questions, just contact me or Doug. And a reminder, everybody, Cure Duchenne, they've got a certification process for PTs, so that your PT knows about Duchenne. It's a fantastic training course. And also, I believe you have hydrotherapy exercises on the Cure Duchenne as well, Doug.
We do. So there's a lot of stuff on the website that's helpful. So we have, there's a thing on there with hydrotherapy. We also do webinars for our certified therapists. We do them once a quarter, Jennifer and myself, on different topics. And those are actually archived on the website. So we've gone over lots and lots of different topics. And we have one coming up in November that's actually, it's a little bit late for you, Ashley, but it's actually on femur fractures. So we're having a doctor talk about that, and then the different types of surgery, and then what therapy looks like after. But there's all different, we're doing them once a quarter. There's all different topics. So if you want to just look at those webinars that we've archived, there's a lot of good information on there as well.
Okay, perfect.
1 second. All right, guys, thank you much. It was a pleasure. And I just want to say before we head out, Doug, I really like that necklace.
You can't have it.
All right, guys, we'll see y'all later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.